Hi there. Thanks for joining us. My name is Ed Thorell from Firearms Education and Training, and we appreciate you tuning in to Shooter the Series. Today we're really lucky to have with us Steve Teal, our executive producer, and he's got a few things he'd like to tell you.
Thank you, Ed. Today we're going to go inside the Murrieta Public Library, where we're going to hear a presentation on how to obtain a concealed carry weapons permit, also known as a CCW, through the City of Murrieta. Delivering the presentation today is going to be Lieutenant Driscoll of the Murrieta Police Department. So stick around and let's go inside and see what he has to say.
So I'll try my best to project my voice. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm just going to put this out here right now. Is there anyone that's not a Murrieta resident that is looking to get a CCW license through Murrieta CCW? So we're good. I just want to make sure you're not wasting your time if you're in the county area or Temecula area. Well, I guess we'll get started. My name is Ron Driscoll. I'm a lieutenant with the Murrieta Police Department. I'm the commander in charge of our investigations division. And the purpose of tonight, I want to discuss what our CCW program is, cover some of the laws that pertain to having a CCW permit, talk a little bit about some of the things that are involved in that, and then at the end, allow for some question and answers. Now, it's going to need to be reasonable because we have, I would guess, maybe 120 people in this room. So I did leave a bunch of cards on the table, so if you have any questions or you want to email me a question, I'll be more than happy to respond, and we can hopefully do that in a pretty quick fashion. So what we're going to talk about is what is a CCW permit. I would guess that most of you already know what that is, but for those that don't, we'll cover that. Some of the laws that pertain to having a CCW permit, a little bit about the Second Amendment as it pertains to CCWs, an overview of what our program is about, and an explanation into good cause and what the psychological review is. And I can tell you, I recently met with our local members of the NRA. Those are the two biggest areas of concern, so I want to make sure that we address that, and I'm sure if anyone has questions at the end, we'll cover that in its entirety. Okay, basically a carry concealed weapons license is a license and authorization by a sheriff of a county or chief of police to carry a concealable weapon. So we're not running around with a 12-gauge shotgun or something. It has to be concealable. Well, I guess that could be argued too, but for purposes of self-protection, once certain statutory requirements and agency requirements are met. Now, I'm going to cover a lot of laws, but I'm going to just touch a little bit on each of them. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. The first two sections talk about the authority or the ability for a sheriff of a county to issue a CCW license. The next section right below it, right here, pertains to municipal police chiefs. They can issue CCW licenses as well. Each agency, whether it's a sheriff or a police department, we have to make public our policy and our requirements so that we're transparent. And by the way, all of that is on our city website. In fact, almost everything that I'm showing you today is on our city website under our programs. I'm just going to go into greater detail with a couple of things, and this is the forum to ask those questions if you have questions. What the training requirements are, right there. Now, there are a bunch of requirements, and we'll go into those things, but the very top one talks about once those requirements are met, it gives the authority in the state of California for a sheriff and a police chief to be able to issue a license. There also is a standard application that you fill out. So in our program, you do an online inquiry or online application, but then there's also a California Department of Justice application that you have to complete. It's just to keep everything uniform so that one sheriff, one police chief, they're not just doing their own thing, that we have one uniform way of getting that done. Fingerprint requirement, fee requirement for Department of Justice, Also, again, all of the stuff's on the website, so if you're really into the minutia of the legalities of carrying a concealed weapon, it's all in plain English. You can look it up. But it's very straightforward as to what the requirements are. This top one's kind of important, 26-200 of the Penal Code. It allows different municipalities, they can add their own restrictions on carrying a concealed weapon. Now, we have our certain restrictions. Once you get it, we tell you that you can't do A, B, and C. If we find out that you did A, B, and C, we can revoke the license. It's that simple. Every jurisdiction has their own thing. Depends on where in the state you are and what the particular issues are. Oh, this is an important one. Especially, this is sort of why we have time restrictions for the licensing agency to notify applicants of approval and denial. I'll get into what our results have been with kicking off our own program. And I'll just say this also. We're good partners with our Sheriff's Department. We love the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. They're our partners in law enforcement. They have a CCW program. We just started ours. We've actually always had that ability to issue CCW to citizens. We just recently decided to be more aggressive with putting that out there. With that being said, they can only do so much with their manpower. So, notifying when a person gets approved for a CCW, when they're denied, the timeliness of that, the timeliness is what's key with our program. We're issuing CCWs at a pretty phenomenal rate, and we're getting the job done, and we're actually building through. So I just wanted to touch on that. The ability to amend your license, so if you have to add a gun or that kind of stuff, change your address within the city limits, that's important. The duration of CCW permits, they're good for 2 years, and then you have to renew. And then we have to maintain as an agency records and that kind of stuff. So there's 4 key laws that, 4 key requirements that we focus on. Does the applicant have good moral character? Is there good cause to issue a CCW license? That's probably the biggest question that's going to be in this room, is what good cause is, and it is a little subjective. So it's different for every person, and not one's the same compared to the other. Is the applicant a resident of the city? I get probably every week 2 or 3 people that call and they want to know if they can apply for a CCW. But they have a Murrieta address, but they live in the county Murrieta. They live in La Cresta, they live in some other location. You have to live within the city limits of Murrieta to be considered for a CCW license. And then the applicant's completed the course of training as prescribed, which is a range gun safety course. Okay, so the Second Amendment. We hear this quite a bit, that actually see this in a lot of the good cause statements, that I want to uphold my Second Amendment right to carry a concealed weapon. Well, there isn't a Second Amendment right to carry a concealed weapon. Last year, that issue was brought forth. It was the Murrieta versus County of San Diego. It was brought forth by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. The Ninth Circuit confirmed that there is no constitutional right to carry a concealed firearm on your person. It's not in the Constitution. That appeal went to the Supreme Court this year in June, and they upheld this rule. And the reason I say that, I mean, obviously we're trying to help citizens arm themselves, to protect themselves. If there's a good reason, by all means, we're gonna extend that olive branch and help you get a concealed weapon. That's our intent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. But we do have parameters that we have to work on, and it's really comes down to reasonableness. So, how did we get to where we are today? Last year, our police chief, Sean Haddon, he was talking to a few people, and he heard some of the frustration that was out there regarding the length of time it takes to get a CCW through health. And again, I by no means am here to say any bad things about the Sheriff's Department. I actually started with the Sheriff's Department. I have a lot of respect for them. But it was taking a long time. I think they're upwards of 20 months to 24 months right now to even get an interview to be considered for a CCW. So there was some frustration with that. And the chief wanted to find out, well, maybe, can we do it ourselves? So he basically assigned a feasibility study in March of last year, and I got stuck with it. Not stuck with it, but I fully support this program. I think it's good. But we started seeing what other cities were doing in the county, what the Sheriff's Department was doing, and what we can do. I mean, is it something that we can provide as a service to our citizens, or is it something that isn't very obtainable? So when I did this report, I had a couple people help me and reach out to all the different cities in our county. Several of them deferred to the Sheriff's Department, as did we, and but several of them also took it on themselves. And it's not like it was an over complicated task for those agencies, but it did require somebody to focus on doing that full time. Now, our department, like probably most others, we're running thin. We're wearing multiple hats at different levels, and it's hard to get this done. If we're going to do it, we want to do it right, and we want to provide the best product we can, be as thorough as we can. And so, how do we accomplish that? Well, one of the ideas that our chief thought of is, the big bulk of this thing is the background investigation. That's what's taking the longest to accomplish. Now, going back to the Sheriff's Department, what do they have? Why are they so delayed? Well, when you look at the fact that they issue all their correctional deputies, all their non-sworn jailers, CCWs, they issue judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and they cover all the county areas within the county. And guess what, folks? They have 2 deputies to do that. 2. I mean, no wonder it takes as long as it takes. It's really no fault of their own. It's just they don't have the staffing to be able to do it adequately. So when I completed this report, the initial recommendation was if we don't have the body to commit to this, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, because once you open that door, you're not going to close it. You have to. If you're going to commit, you need to commit with the resources that'll adequately get this done. So she thought about it, and he thought, well, why don't we contract the bulk of this out to a private firm? They can do the backgrounds. They can run the logistics of getting that part of the CCW process completed. And then all that's left is the approval by an administrator, me, and then, or recommendation by me, and then the ultimate approval by the chief. So what we decided to do is we did a test group with 5 people, and we outlined what the process was. We made sure it followed the penal code, and we wanted to see where it took us. So the reality is that we finished within between 3 and 4 months with all 5, which was astounding for us. I mean, in comparison, you wouldn't even get an appointment with the Sheriff's Department for 18 months at that time. So the process was pretty thorough. The process included a couple more safeguards than what was offered with the county, and we realized that, hey, we can do this. It's something that's possible. So our goal, or the point of the study was to see if the CCW license process could be completed in a reasonable amount of time. We accomplished that. If the overall cost for the CC issuance would be affordable to the residents. Now, we're about $250 more than what the county would charge collectively. When you add up your site, you add up the range, or not the site, but you add the range and all the fees. So we're about $250 more than the county. And the other thing, last thing, would the program be cost neutral for the city of Murrieta? You know, it's not a money-making thing for us, it's a service. We want to, you know, we want to partner with our community, and that's our logo on our police cars. And part of partnership is the reality that we can't be everywhere at every time. So if we can issue our citizens, you know, the ones that have that good cause, if we can issue them the ability to carry a concealed weapon, why not? You know, that'll help them, and that'll help us too. So again, 3 to 4 months, pretty remarkable. And Chief Haddon presented his findings to the City Council on April 4th of this year. Now, we went from last year, 3-month study, all the way to April 4th. It took all that time to sort through the mechanics of how we can do this, how we can make it reasonable, affordable, and not really take up all our staff time. So it did take a little time to get that done. $761 is what the average is. That fluctuates depending on what range course you take. So if you go to you could go to one that's slightly more expensive, that amount will be a little bit higher. That's our chief. And what's also on our website, he quotes him saying, the Murrieta Police Department is pleased to offer this service to the citizens of Murrieta as a tool for personal protection and with the overall goal for increased public safety. It's a service. Again, this isn't a money-making thing for us. It's something to help our community.
All right, thanks for coming back. We just sat through the presentation that Lieutenant Ron Driscoll gave us, how to get a CCW, and it went about an hour. So just to make it easier on the viewer, we've decided we're going to break this down into 4 segments just to make it a little bit more watchable. But I wanted to go through and give you some of the bullet points just so that you got an idea of what to pay really a good attention to. Number 1, if you'd like to get a CCW for the City of Murrieta, you have to be a resident and live within the city limits of Murrieta, California. Also, you want to make sure that you understand that the CCW is only for pistols. For more information and to go online, you want to go to the web address of www.myccw.us. They handle all of the paperwork for filling out the applications. You're going to find that there's actually 2 different applications, one for California DOJ, Department of Justice, and also one for Murrieta City. Now, one of the things that came out of this is the fact is that your CCW is going to be good for 2 years. It's also going to be a requirement that you're going to have to put together a good cause letter. It's also required that you go in for a qualification course. Now, it's important you understand what the qualification course is. They're going to go in and test you on the skills that you have developed. However, the qualification course is your final test. It is not the course that is going to give you the skills that you need to pass qualification. So it's highly recommended that you get additional training so that when you go up there, you do it right the first time. For that, I can help you out. One of the things we also learned was that the cost of the course is going to be $761 collectively. Anyway, that's going to wrap up episode number 1. Thanks for joining us again on Shooter the Series. My name is Ed Thorell from Firearms Education and Training. Be sure to join us again for episode number 2. Y'all take care.